Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Moonlit Library, your home for all things smutty story time. If you are coming back to us from week one, thank you so much for joining us again. I'm so happy you're here. If you are brand spanking new to our little channel, thank you for joining us for the first time. I hope you'll be around with us for a long time to come. And with that, I will sort of introduce book two for this week. I am extremely excited about this one. With our first week, we obviously kicked off on a really dark note. We kicked off with Salah Gothic by Kat Blackthorne. Really, really dark romance, really religious trauma overtones, just altogether phenomenal, but definitely a lot to take in. However, this week we're going to lighten things up a little bit with a sports romance. And for those of you who are saying, I'm not a huge fan of sports romance, give this one a shot. It's fun, it's got great representation, and it is honestly funny as all hell and really wholesome in an odd and unexpected way for something that actually does use the word cock in the title. So, without further ado, I will introduce you to The Cock Down the Block by Amy Award. And I found this book through Instagram completely unexpectedly. I just sort of stumbled across one of those Instagram sponsored ads that read you a couple of smutty lines from the story. And I got hooked. Because of course I did. It went by so quickly. And next thing I know, it's 2 a.m. As you will recognize, most of my stories begin or end with, it was 2 a.m. by the time I finished or started this story, because who needs sleep? I will sleep when I am dead. But, that being said, I found myself reading through this and finishing at 2 a.m. and just completely overwhelmed by how wholesome and heartwarming this story was. So we will go ahead and read the syllabus together, which is actually just the summary of the novel, but I am a researcher at heart, so syllabus it is. Always the nerdy girl, never the girlfriend, until her cocky best friend and his rooster take charge. Look, I've had it bad for the girl with all the curves next door forever. She turned me down in high school, and since I'm not a total douche canoe, I lusted after her all by myself in my shower, and we stayed just friends for years. Now she's the adorable librarian next door, and I'm the star quarterback of the best pro football team in the league. So when she asks me to be her fake date to her all-girls school reunion, I am totally down to show her off to the mean girls who bullied her back then, so they can see just how incredible she is. I'll be the best boyfriend they've ever seen. The best fake boyfriend, that is. For all of you going, oh my god, I know what this is. Yeah, it's a fake dating romance. 1,000% romance superiority right there. Fake dating. We all know where it's going, and we all know how we're going to get there, probably, and it's always amazing. Until I find out from her slightly stalkery classmates that she still has her V card. I don't see how that is even possible. Not with how sexy and sweet she is. Could it be because she knows she belongs with me? This curvy girl in football quarterback sports romance has a baddie plus size woman who knows her own worth and a Bridgerton's meets American football family you'll wish you were a part of. So if that doesn't drag you in, I do not know what will. I will be honest. I love this story so much. It has such good vibes. And after we read those first three chapters, we'll actually dig in a little bit on what really drew me into the story and sort of the thoughts and analysis. But what I'll say at the beginning before we dig in on the content warnings and then the chapters is that this book is all about plus size representation. Amy Award actually does a phenomenal job with all of her stories about making sure that the thick girls, emphasis with like 6 C's, as I am myself, get recognition and get representation and are made to feel sexy and happy. And the story doesn't revolve around being plus size. The story absolutely revolves around love and enjoyment of life and happiness. Most of Amy's stories really target this idea that being plus size is just another experience, because we have too many people who tell us it's not, that there is something wrong with us because we are plus size. And so, because of that, she wrote us a love story that really does not target being plus sized. It's just a mere part of the representation for it. And it's really, really something incredible. And so, with that, we're actually going to kick off with the content note before digging into the actual story itself. Content note: this is a book of fluff. Fluff that I worked really hard on and am extremely proud of. It's meant for escapism and laughs. We need fluff. It's the insulation from the harsh world around us. I think it's important to have fat representation in the media, and I do that by showing fat women getting happy ever afters without ever having to lose weight. Side note, that is so exciting to hear because I never get to read that, ever. However, that doesn't mean there won't be any conflict or angst. While it was really important to me to write a story with a confident, plus size, fat, curvy heroine whose inner strength and love for herself doesn't waver, I will always put pieces of myself into every one of my curvy girl FMCs, and I'm still working on my own journey of self love. Aren't we all? That means that the heroine does face some external fat phobia in this book. It's not the main storyline, but it is an important part of the conflict. If you still want to read the book but skipped that particular part, don't read chapter 26. But if you've got the mental space for it, try it out and see. Good news, we won't be getting to 26 quite during this little recording. However, if you decide to read this book, please be aware of this particular potential for triggers and be warned going in. Just make sure you know that. There is also talk about loss of a parent in the past. Our cocky kingmans were raised by a single father. What I can promise you, though, is that my books will always hold a space that is free of violence against women, including sexual assault. That just doesn't exist in the world I create in my mind. And finally, I love to write about funny animals and pets. No pets will ever be harmed or die in any of my books. I like to cry at touching Super Bowl commercials and Broadway musicals about witches who defy gravity, not in my romances. Wink. Sorry, I had to do the wink gesture cuz it's fun. But with that, let's start with the acknowledgments on the very first Cocky Kinkman book. Let's do this. For all the women who have done or are doing the work to love yourself from the inside out, you're allowed to take up space. For my mom who taught me to love myself and football, go Big Red. Crash into me, Chris. I have never been a morning person. The butt crack of dawn can suck it, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't even be awake at this ungodly hour getting in some cardio if it wasn't for Luke Skycocker, the goddamned noisiest rooster who lives next door. I'd have already thrown him into my morning protein smoothie, feathers and all, if it wasn't for Red Pooper One's owner. Trixie would murder me with a jar of pickled eggs if I strangled her favorite chicken. Dumb fucking rooster. I may want her to squeeze some parts of my anatomy, but not my throat. Well, maybe. No. We didn't have that kind of relationship. What we did have was a long-standing friend zone situation that meant I got to stare at her plump ass as long as I didn't say how good it looked. Like right now when she's bent over in the middle of the damn street to pick up Luke Skycocker, who is doing his best to terrorize all of our neighbors into waking up. Every time she got close, he trotted away, flapping his wings and sounding his annoying alarm clock to the rising sun. Luke, if you weren't so adorable, I'd cook you up for dinner. Come here, you little rat! Trixie crept up on him again, arms outstretched, ready to snag him, and my heart beat harder than my morning run dictated. Probably because she was wearing one of those floofy 50s styles dresses she liked, and every time she bent over, I got a glimpse of the back of her thick thighs and her sexy as fuck polka dot panties she kept flashing me. At this point, I was rooting for Luke just so I could stare my fill of something I'd never have. Fuck. Time to quit being a dick being controlled by my actual dick and help. We're just pals, and have been since high school when she friend-zoned me so hard I still haven't recovered. Doesn't mean I don't still jerk off in the shower thinking about her. But my mama didn't raise no jackasses, and my father ground into all 7 of us boys to be gentlemen. She said no, and I would never push that boundary. She wanted to be friends, so we're friends. Doesn't mean I don't look every chance I get. If I wasn't lost in a very dirty fantasy of having her bent over my couch, I might have seen old Mrs. Boacek barreling down the road at 11 miles an hour. She wasn't tall enough to see over the steering wheel of her pristine, vintage, one-owner only 1974 Oldsmobile Toronado, which normally wouldn't matter. But Luke Skycocker was headed straight toward the front grille, with Trixie trailing behind. Trixie, look out for Mrs. Bow and her boat! I jogged toward her but picked up speed when Luke took flight. He was headed straight for the windshield. Luke! Trixie shouted. Use the force, you dumb rooster! Use the force! The stupid chicken was going to smash into the car, probably splat all over the window, and scare the shit out of Mrs. B in the process. No way I was letting Luke kamikaze the olds. Trixie would be devastated if her rooster went to the big chicken coop in the sky. I hated when she cried. My agent, coach, and offensive line would all kill me if they knew I was about to dash into oncoming traffic. Yet off I went to jeopardize my career by jumping in front of a car to save a stupid rooster. Should be easy peasy. Except seeing a giant rainbow-colored rooster flying straight at you would scare even the coolest and most calm drivers. That was not Mrs. Bow on a good day. She swerved one way, then the other, like she was 3 sheets to the wind. I still could have darted into the street and back to get her and the bird if Mrs. Bow hadn't freaked out and stepped on the gas. She was up to at least 14 miles an hour and climbing. Fast feet, Beatrix! Hustle, hustle! She was already trying to anticipate Mrs. Bow's swerving, but nobody here had a good escape route. The familiar adrenaline of being on the field coursed through me. My vision went crystal clear, and I lasered in on the car, the rooster, and my girl, quickly calculating the route I could take to make this play and avoid being sacked by the olds. I bounced on my feet and took off at a dead run. In a Super Bowl-worthy move, I jumped onto the hood of the car, extending my reach out as far as I could, and grabbed Luke Skycocker by the long and danglies of his tail, pulling him down and tucking him under my arm like a football. Then I pushed off the hood, snagged Trixie around the waist, and tucked and rolled off the side of the car, my hip jarring against the polished metal as Mrs. Bow swerved again. I took the brunt of the fall, protecting the rooster and Trix from the hard ground. We skidded across the grassy curb between the street and the sidewalk in front of my house. Mrs. Bow skidded to a halt. The 3 of us laid there for a minute, my chest heaving, sucking in deep breaths, pushing the air and adrenaline back out of my system. Trixie's breath was rapid and ragged, too. She lifted her head from my chest where she'd landed and pushed her glasses back up her face. Why, Mr. Kingman, is that a rooster in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Even if I hadn't already been half-hard fantasizing about Trixie's ass, adrenaline does things to the anatomy. I'd had plenty of stiffies during intense football games, but combine the two, and this hard-on wasn't going anywhere without some help, which I wasn't getting from the woman sprawled across my body at the moment. Luckily, Luke Skycocker chose that moment to stick his head up between the 2 of us and peck me on the arm. Twice. He jumped out of my hold and sauntered across the yard and up onto Trixie's front porch as if nothing in the world bothered him. The little shit. Trixie shook her head and gave a little snort. I think that's his way of saying thanks for saving us? No. It wasn't. That rooster pecked anyone who wasn't Trixie, especially guys. He loved her, and I'm pretty damn sure he thought she was his true love and fated mate. Yeah? What's your way? Son of a bitch. That just slipped out all flirty and filled with innuendo. I knew better than to say shit like that out loud. She stared at me for an entirely too awkward minute. That was weirder than I could deal with at 7 o'clock in the morning. I sat up and carefully moved her well off my lap and subsequent hard on, then stood and held out my hand to help her to her feet. She took it, and it was far too difficult to not haul her into my arms when I pulled her up. She dropped my hand before I was ready and dusted off her skirt with a few slaps to her hip and butt. I had to bite my fist to keep from helping her or saying anything. There was a long, icy, cold shower in my immediate future. "Hey, you kids, stay out of the street! Don't make me call your parents to tell them you were fooling around in traffic," Mrs. Bowe hollered at us like we were still 8 years old and running through the neighborhood on a Saturday morning. "Sorry, Mrs. Bowe, we'll be more careful." Trixie gave our elderly neighbor a wave. That placated her, and she harumphed, but continued down the street at an even more leisurely pace, like she owned the place. In fact, I did. "Come over tonight, and I'll make you a roast chicken dinner to say thanks." She glared at Luke Skycocker, contentedly roosting in the flower pot next to her front door. She loved that stupid chicken, and he loved her. No way we were ever going to get to eat him. "Can't. I promised Johnston I'd make an appearance at Manaway's fancy-ass grand opening tonight. I'd had big shoes to fill when the Mustangs drafted me to be the backup quarterback to the most beloved player in franchise history. Manaway had immediately taken me under his wing and told me he'd make sure I won more Super Bowl rings than he had. He was genuinely a good man, and I would always go out of my way to do anything for him. Not like drinks and dinner at his bougie new restaurant in Cherry Creek was a hardship, though. Come and be my date." She wrinkled up her nose in that cute way she had. No. I am not Manaway's steakhouse material. You need a cheerleader, or... Oh, I know! Ask the new anchorwoman from 9 News. She's all polish and sophistication. You could be Denver's new power couple. We'll give you a cute couple name like Chrysangela or Angetifer. Yeah. No. I'm sure Angie Cruz was a lovely person, and probably as boring out on a date as watching golf. I don't think she's my type. Come on, it'll be fun. And Johnston's wife made sure they actually have a whole-ass vegan menu, so you don't have to order a baked potato at a steak place. They even have that weirdo fake meat you pretend is beef. Trixie spun in a cute little circle and sang her favorite Flip-Floppers theme, "'Cause I'm a filthy vegan." "So you'll go?" "You owe me one for saving Luke Skycocker's life." It's not like this was a real date or anything. My cock didn't appear to know that, though. "It's tempting. I do enjoy ogling football player butts." She tapped her finger on her lips, thinking, who else will be there? I wasn't jealous that she wanted to stare at other men's butts. Nope, not me. I was also talking to the team trainers about adding in an extra glute workout to my rotation. Deck, Everett, Hayes, all my 3 brothers who also played for the Mustangs, and my dad. Coach Kingman was football royalty in his own right. 7 national championships for the DSU Dragons was no small feat. Neither was raising 8 kids as a single father for the last 17 years, 4 of whom played professionally, 3 more currently playing competitively in college who would likely all go in the first few rounds of the draft when it was their turn, and 1 stroppy teenaged girl that we all loved. There wasn't a single event in the Denver metro area that involved sports that my father wasn't invited to. Retired now or not, he was a busy man. There won't be room for anyone else in the restaurant with the Kingmans holding court, and those are not the butts I want to ogle. Trixie side-eyed me. Who else you got? Not jealous. Not jealous. Some other guys from the team, and of course Johnston and Marie. But you know that's not why you want to go. You'll come for the gossip. Trixie shrugged and gave me a big shit-eating grin. I suppose I can find something to stare at all night. And you're the one who knows all the good dirt on the Rocky Mountain celeb scene, not me. Aha! Got her! Which is why you'll come with me, so I can point out who all is being recruited to host the Great Mile High Bake Off. No. "Shut the front door!" She shoved me, and I pretended she was strong enough to move me by taking a step to the side. "They're coming here? How did you not lead with that?" "Fine, I'm in." Trixie was eternally addicted to competition shows. Her streaming subscriptions were a monster of their own. I'd know. She made me watch them with her every damn week. If anyone found out that I even knew who Paul Hollywood, Mary Berry, and Prue Leith were, I'd never live it down. "I'll pick you up at 7. I'd trained myself not to sound too excited when she said yes to our pseudo dates. "See you tonight." She jogged up her front porch stairs, pulled open her front door, shooed Luke Skycocker inside, and waved me off as if going out with me tonight was seriously no big deal. It wasn't. I dragged her to all kinds of events when my agent didn't have some kind of PR date lined up for me. He rarely set me up anyway because he knew I'd say no most of the time. No big deal. Because we were friends, neighbors, nothing more. I needed another long run and then 12 cold showers before tonight. And all I got was this vibrator. Trixie. One thing I will never get used to is finding a vibrator in my mailbox. No, wait, that's not entirely true. I passionately believe every woman should have a lovely selection of sex toys at her disposal, and am a fan of online shopping with discreet packaging. I'm happy to receive my own choice of vibrator or what have you in the mail. I have a fine collection of my own, thank you very much. What has me shaking my head, once again, is that this particular delivery is from my mother. Yes, my mother. The former BBW porn star, turned Volvo driving soccer mom, turned sex educator and sex positive and body positive influencer sends me pleasure aids in the mail regularly. On her many adventures around the world, instead of sending me a t-shirt that says my parents went to Thailand and all I got was this dumb t-shirt, she sends me the most exotic of sex toys. "An orgasm a day keeps the blues away," she always says. Like, it's literally her tagline on her Instagram account. Not that I don't love her for trying to make an impact on the world, but it's still weird in so many ways. I begrudgingly opened the box and pulled out an intricately carved penis with an incredibly happy, smiling face on the head. Of course, the moment I got it out, it started vibrating and swirling, and there did not seem to be an off button. I couldn't even figure out where in the world the batteries went so I could rip them out and throw them in the trash. I rolled my eyes and tossed the thing on the couch. Luke crowed at it, flew up onto the cushions, and pecked at it like the biggest, yummiest of worms. Oh, God. Well, as long as he didn't go wandering off with it, I guess he could have it. Maybe he'd kill the damn possessed thing, and then I could chuck it into the spare laundry hamper in my closet along with all the other ones. At this point, I could start a sex toy donation center for women who can't afford dildos from around the world. If anyone ever discovered my strange hoard, well, not like that's gonna happen. Thank goodness I hadn't already grabbed my mail when Luke Skycocker had escaped, or Chris would have tackled me, my rooster, and my vibrating cock onto the sidewalk. I'm sure he'd seen his fair share of sex toys in his many sexcapades, but even he didn't know about my dirty secret stash in the closet. I really did need to figure out how to dispose of all of them. I reached into the box again and pulled out a bag of penis-shaped lollipops and an envelope with kanji and cherry blossoms with penis-shaped stamens decorating the surface. Ah, they were in Japan. I did remember her saying something about having gone to a penis festival in Kawasaki. She must have had a blast, and of course had fun shopping for this present for me there. My mother also wrote me notes about the adventures she and my dad were having, the sights they were seeing, the food they were trying, and where they were headed to next. That part I was interested in. I looked forward to her letters. The old-fashionedness of getting letters that I could sit down and read with a cup of tea was something I relished. It was the gifts that came along with them I could do without. I'd message her later to check what time zone they were currently in and see about FaceTiming with her and my dad to tell her I'd gotten the box. I'd learned a long time ago that even if I was shocked and weirded out by the things she sent, I still had to say thank you for thinking of me. "Hey Luke, you kill that horrible thing yet? I gotta get to work and you are not allowed to take it into the coop with you." Luke flapped his way to the top of the couch and looked at me like I was crazy. I glanced down, and yep, the toy was still vibrating and dancing away on the cushion, although looking a little worse for the wear of being attacked by my rooster. Well, good try, buddy. You can have another hack at it tonight after I get home from work. Hopefully, if I left it alone and running all day long, the mysterious hidden batteries would wear out. I picked Luke up and carried him through the kitchen and out into the backyard. He squirmed his way out of my arms and did his very cocky walk toward the coop where his girls were waiting for him. Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and Kylo Hen came running over to welcome home their man candy. Those girls followed him all over the place, my newest hen, Kylo, especially. Sadly, Luke didn't give any of them the time of day. I gave the girls some cuddles. I'd started my little flock with the two pretty silkies, Leia and Chewie, then splurged later on Luke and Kylo. I wanted a couple more and had my eye on a Barnvelder and a Wyandotte. Even had names picked out for them, but wouldn't need to upgrade the coop and their open space to do that. Sorry, my sweet girls. He's only got eyes for me. I'd been warned when I added Luke to our flock that I'd have to be sure to gather the eggs every day so we didn't get a bunch of fertilized eggs, but while he was fiercely protective of the girls, as far as I could tell, he was still a virgin chicken. He didn't question my decision not to have sex, so I wasn't going to question his. Once everyone was fed, their water refilled, and a quick check done for eggs, I promised them some grubs later if they were good. After a quick wash up, a fresh cup of coffee in my guess what chicken butt travel mug because the teens at the library thought it was funny, and I was on the way to work. I had an evaluation today with the branch manager, Creepy Carter. I rolled my eyes at myself. He wasn't that bad. He just always looked at me like I was a piece of pie. I also think I intimidated the hell out of him, so my evals were usually all glowing and not actually useful for being a better and more productive librarian. Lulu, my ride-or-die friend from kindergarten to now, was who I went to for that. We went to library school together, too, and she worked in programming for the Thornminster library system. She was the only person who would always tell me exactly like it was, and then help me figure out how to fix it so I was better. The best. That was always the goal. Be the best. It was half of why Chris and I were such good friends. He had a super achiever streak a mile high and wide. Couldn't be the quarterback for the Mustangs if he didn't work his ass off to be the best. He wasn't bothered by my own perfectionistic tendencies, and I loved him for it. His whole family was highly competitive. They worked hard, and they played hard. I'd had more than a crush on all three of the eldest brothers at one point or another. Those football butts. Chris and Everett were the whole reason I had a chicken hobby farm in my backyard in the first place. They said I worked hard but didn't play enough. Kingman family game nights didn't count since I couldn't make it every month. I needed a hobby or a pet or something. With Leia and Chewie, I got both in one go. I hadn't even been sure my landlord would allow such a thing, but Chris had convinced me there was no risk without reward and pushed me to ask. When the leasing company said yes, half the Kingman clan had come over and helped me build the coop. Why in the world Chris wanted me to go with him to the opening of Manaways was beyond me. It gave me funny flutters in my tummy. I hated the spotlight. There better not be a bunch of press there. Ugh. Now I had to think about what in the world I was going to wear. One of my cutesy dresses and cardigans that I wore to work wouldn't be fancy enough. In my mind, women at events like this wore sparkly, tight dresses and sipped champagne out of long flutes with lipstick on the rim and laughed at jokes about being rich. I definitely watched too many Dynasty reruns as a kid, but I didn't own sparkly shit. I owned cute shit, a lot of comfy clothes, and 4 signed Denver Mustangs jerseys, a dozen more Denver State Dragons jerseys, one for each of the Kingman boys on the team. It was a steakhouse, right? Maybe I could wear jeans and a jersey? Yeah, no. Well, at least I had something to distract me from Creepy Carter and his evaluation while I was at work today. I was on the desk for most of the afternoon so that I was available to the teens that hung out there after school. Maybe I could ask Jules, the youngest and only girl in the Kingman clan, to consult on the wardrobe choice. She came to the library almost every day, getting hours in on our summer volunteer program, although I think she was there just to get out of her testosterone-filled house for a while. Hey, Trixie! Creepy Carter held the door open for me for way too long. I had barely parked and gotten out of my car when he swung it open. Had he been watching for me? See? Creepy. Hi, Carter. You don't have to hold the door, but thanks. Now I had to hurry walk up the sidewalk. It's no problem, he shrugged and smiled, and on anyone else it would be endearing. I forwarded you some emails from parents I got this morning. Thought you might like to be warned. I frowned and straightened my spine. Bad emails? Complaints? We got the occasional angry parent, and our fair share of repressed parents who wanted books banned from the library, specifically the teen sections, but I'd never had a complaint about anything I did. My mind raced to come up with what I could have done wrong. The only thing I could even think of was the new program to help the older teens with their college applications. Perhaps some parent wanted to control that part of their child's life and resented the library for interfering. Stranger things had happened. Oh, he chuckled and looked down at his shoes. Of course not. Their request for one-on-one help from some overachiever kid's helicopter mom. This is why I was the teen librarian and Carter was not. He didn't like teens, or their parents. No worries, I can take care of them. Thanks for warning me. I slipped into the building and didn't miss the way he stood in the doorway, just enough in the way so that my hips brushed against his as I went by. Blech. Thankfully, my desk wasn't in eyesight of Carter's office, and I didn't have to feel his eyes on me as I got settled and started in on my to-do list for the day. The parents' request was the first thing, and it wasn't even what Carter had said it was. They just wanted to know if they could come and ask some questions about volunteer opportunities at our next scheduled program time. Just a few minutes before the library was about to open, 2 emails pinged my inbox. The first was a notification of a reschedule of my evaluation with Carter. Good. Fine. But the second one had me a little off kilter. It was a message forwarded from Lulu. I read it twice, tried to take a swig from my empty coffee mug, and read it again. We are pleased to announce that the following librarians have been nominated for Young Adult Romance Writers Association Librarian of the Year. Me? Librarian of the Year? Out of the whole country? No. What? No. Trixie, you coming to Roundup? One of the other librarians passed my desk on her way upstairs to the main desk. We all met for a quick 10-minute roundup just before the library opened, to check in with the day's programming and any news or info that everyone might need to know. Yeah, coming. I stared at the email for one more time, locked my computer, and walked up the stairs just in time to catch Carter start the meeting. I had no idea what he said until he excused us all to go open the doors. I walked to the teen section and sat down behind the desk, staring at the stacks of books for a full 3 minutes before I'd realized I'd left all my stuff to work on downstairs. Crap. Since we were rarely swamped on a Friday morning, I hurried down, got my books, clipboard, and binder full of college essay samples to add to, and rushed back up to my desk. Woo. That was my workout and steps for the day. Sitting on my desk, right where the pages placed it every morning, was a copy of the Denver Post. And of course, staring up at me from the big picture on the front page was Johnston Manaway standing in front of his new steakhouse. I turned the paper over. I didn't have the brain capacity at the moment to think about the opening tonight and still be in shock and awe over the nomination. I could only freak out about one or the other. I flipped the paper back over. Manaway's grand opening tonight was the lesser of 2 evils. It was just one night, and Chris would be there to protect me from any reporters or weirdos. Plus, I was looking forward to the celebrity gossip. Half the fun of being dragged to these events was standing at the bar with him as he pointed out who was who and who was doing who. Okay. I could concentrate on figuring out what to wear tonight and think about the nomination tomorrow. I went over to the periodicals and pulled a bunch of fashion magazines. I was definitely making Jules go through them with me later. Although it's not like I was going shopping later or something. My librarian's salary covered gas, rent, chicken food, my fancy flavored creamer addiction, with just enough left over to put a little into savings like a good girl should. Crappity crap. My fingers couldn't dial Lulu's number fast enough. She had ESP because she answered before the phone even rang. You got my email and you're freaking out, aren't you? Yes. No, yes. Gah. That anxiety attack was for later. I have to freak out about that tomorrow. I have an entirely different crisis, and you have to help me. Bring it on. I got you. Her tone went from teasing to serious in an instant. Do you have cancer? Does your mom? Did your dad get thrown in jail for being in the red light district in Thailand? Is Luke Skycocker okay? He didn't get hit by a car or something, did he? Lou, stop. She could go like this for an hour without letting me get in a word edgewise. D. None of the above. I have to go to Manaway's Steakhouse opening tonight. The line went completely silent. This was worse than I thought. Lulu hadn't been silent for this long in her entire life. Why the hell did you scare me like that then? Rude. First of all, you're the worst case scenario girl, and secondly, I gulped, I don't have anything to wear. Oh. Shit. The actual seriousness of this situation finally hit her. I know. I slid the fashion magazines to the side and waited for her sage advice. Lulu always knew what to do. Wait, why are you going to Manaway's? You don't eat meat. Not helpful. I already knew that. Chris asked me. No big deal. He asked me to do lots of stuff with him and the family. I was practically a kingman, like a cousin or something. Chris? As in Chris Kingman, quarterback of the Denver Mustangs, Denver Post's most eligible bachelor, your ultra-hot next-door neighbor, Chris, asked you out on a date. The sound on her end went muffled like she was covering the receiver, and she might have squealed. Finally! Thank the sweet baby Jesus you said yes. It's about damn time. Lulu had been shipping me and Chris since high school. It was never going to happen. He wasn't interested in me. Not like that. We were friends, had been for a long time, and I liked it that way. He was nice, safe, and an all-around good friend. It's not a date. It's just Chris. You been sniffing the children's librarian's glue supply? Come on, I need real help here. I don't want to look dumb. That gave me mental flashbacks to high school and the Queen Bee's sing-songy cheerleader voice word in my head. I'd been teased for a lot of things back then, but it had helped me build up some good shame-proof body-positive armor early in life thanks to my mother. I knew my true worth wasn't in what I looked like, and I needed to remember that right now. It would be fine. Whatever I chose to wear would be good enough. It wasn't like this was an awards show. A gaggle of teenage girls walked up the stairs, startling me out of my brain freeze. Gotta go, Lou. A bunch of teens are here. Jules Kingman led the pack over to my desk. I pulled out the snack box I kept in my desk for them. Got the new Dragon's Love Curves books in yet? I heard this one is about the mysterious purple dragon. I pushed the stack of newly added to the catalog books across the desk, and they were snatched up instantly. The girls headed over to the silent reading area and its massive beanbags. I waved Jules over to me before she got far. Hey, you know how the boys are all going to Manaway's tonight? Sure. Not that I get to go. 21 and up only. She sighed, rolled her eyes, and crossed her arms as only a put-upon teen could do. Ugh, sorry if that's a sore spot. But Chris asked me to go too, and I have no idea what to wear. Any ideas? She went from sullen teen to sparkling in a hot second, then back to cool and apathetic, like she'd been caught being excited about something she didn't want anyone to know about. Oh, yeah, like anything navy and cream. Wear that navy blue high-low maxi you had on for the college application thing we did right at the end of the school year. That was classy, but not with a sweater, just some jewelry. Huh. Yeah, that would work. I didn't know why I hadn't thought of it. It did look good in that dress, and it wasn't fancy, but it wasn't casual either. Without a cardigan to cover up the top, it showed off my girls a bit more than was appropriate for the library, but would be perfect for a fancy restaurant opening. It was exactly right for tonight. It's not too, librarian-ish? It is, but hot, sexy librarian. Chris will go all gaga for it. She made a face and walked away before I could say that's not what I was going for. Don't ship me and your brother, I half shouted after her. Too late, she yelled back over her shoulder. Teenagers and their over-romanticized hormones. I knew better. Just friends. Chris. You would think I'd never been on a date before in my entire fucking life. My hands were sweating so much I couldn't even hold on to my thinking football. I tossed it around when I needed to occupy my body and let my mind just do its thing. The ball just bounced off the couch and knocked over a lamp, and all I'd done was pick it up off the floor for the third time. This wasn't even a real date. It wasn't exactly a fake one, either. I was dressed in my game day suit and tie, ready for this grand opening thing, and I had a heart-on and a half imagining what Trixie would wear. I dragged her to family events before, but nothing like this. Most of what I invited her to was casual: jeans and jerseys, burgers and fries. Not suits and ties, definitely not dresses and heels. This felt like a fucking date. It wasn't, and my body and mind needed to calm the fuck down. Should I have gotten her flowers? What the hell is up with you? Everett leaned against my fridge, drinking a fat tire. There were only a couple left in my summer stash anyway. He might as well drink them. With training camp starting in a few weeks, my alcohol consumption would go from 1 or 2 drinks a week to none. Everett could use and abuse his body and still play ball just as well the next day. I couldn't, and he knew it. Not a damn thing. I tossed the ball onto the couch and shoved my hands into my pockets. I never lied to my brothers because anytime I tried, they called me out on my shit. It was the only reason Everett already knew exactly how I felt about Trixie. But I was the oldest, and even if Declan and Everett both outweighed me and had since high school, I could still kick their asses. Partly because they knew better than to do anything other than protect the health and livelihood of their quarterback. Good try, dude. Spill. I'm not hanging out with a stressed out QB all night. He wrinkled his nose at me like I stank. It repels the women. I don't repel women. I had thousands of adoring fans who were ready and willing to flash their tits or throw their panties at me like I was some kind of rock star. Women weren't my problem. One woman was. He raised his eyebrow at me and took a long slug of the beer while he gave me a side eye. You're the worst. What's the last date you went on? I didn't have to answer that. He was my goddamned baby brother. I used to scare him by flushing the toilet and telling him there was a lion in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. He took another swig as if this was a conversation about when the last time I ate a greasy cheeseburger was, and not my heart. That's what I thought. You need to get laid, man. Okay. So not a conversation about my heart. About my dick. That I could handle. I get laid fine. Declan crashed through the front door like it was the San Francisco offensive line. Who's getting laid? Everett pointed at me with the mouth of the beer bottle. I live across the street from you, and you're bad at hiding shit. So no, you don't. You never bring women home. That he was right about. I didn't bring women or anyone not inside my inner circle to my home. I didn't even allow people I didn't know and trust to rent or buy in our entire neighborhood. It even irked me that Everett brought so many women here. He didn't have the same circle of trust that I did. Just because I don't have 12 different women in my bed every night doesn't mean I don't get laid. Because I actually wanted to care about the person I slept with. Are we getting laid tonight? Hayes sauntered in, looking like he'd barely remembered how to put on a tie. He rubbed his hands together. Then let's get this show on the road. We're waiting for Trixie. The moment I let her name roll off my tongue, I knew I'd made a mistake. Shit. I should have told these yahoos to go downtown without me. The fuck had I been thinking? The four of us almost always went to team stuff together, and being the oldest and the one who hated to be late, I drove. Standard operating procedure. But tonight was not a standard event. And I invited Trixie. As if I'd opened my mouth and crowed like Luke Skycocker, each of their faces turned toward me and stared. Hayes' mouth hung open like he was waiting to catch flies in it. Shut up, the lot of you. I brought out my best impression of Dad and glared at them all. It's not like I don't invite Trixie to do stuff with me. She comes to game night all the time. She's my friend, and I thought she'd like to come along. That's it. Declan grabbed the beer from Everett and gulped down the second half. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, but I wasn't having it. Shut up. Hayes gave me a look that said he thought I was a complete dumbass. Deck glared like I'd stolen his lucky underpants, but Everett, he knew. The fucker was too intuitive for his own good. That's why he was a stellar football player and was even better with the ladies. If he wasn't my little brother, I might have already gone to him for advice. Nope. No. I didn't need advice when it came to Trix. I wasn't lying. She was my friend. Probably my best friend. I wasn't subjecting Trixie to the Kingman Inquisition they were about to dive into. With 3 taps on my phone, I had an Uber Black XL ordered for them, and once she was ready, I'd get a second one for the 2 of us. We'd arrive later, which was fine. Didn't make my eye twitch at all. Fashionably late. I was a sports star. I could get to the party whenever I wanted to. Twitch. Your ride will be here in 10 minutes. Julio will pick you up in a black Escalade with license plates that start with ILV. Now get out of my house before Trixie gets here. I pointed to the front door. Hayes wasn't fazed. He never was. I call shotgun. He and Declan headed out to the front porch, but Everett didn't move a muscle. I glared at him. Get! He pushed off from the counter, but as he walked by me, he did the 2 fingers to his eyes and then pointed to mine. What the hell did he think he needed to watch me for? Asshat. Once they were all out the door, I called Trixie. Hey, you almost ready? I'm calling us an Uber. Maybe? Let me check. Check with who? Jules? Do I fit the patriarchal male gaze look we were going for yet? Do I need more mascara? Trixie was doing her makeup with my sister? And why the fuck did the 17-year-old baby girl of the family know what the male gaze was? She'd been training to take down the patriarchy since she was 2, but the male gaze? Nope. No. I did not like that. Let me just add this highlighter and... Yes! You're officially man-killer ready. My little sister's voice went up a couple decibels. You better keep your arm around her all night, big brother, or some man-whore will steal Trixie away from you. Who talks like that? Jules Kingman, youngest of 8, only girl, and the apple of all of our eyes, of course. Later tonight I was telling Dad to ground her until she was 30. Horror is a social construct, Jules. Trixie was missing the point altogether. I'll come over there to pick you up. Don't let Jules talk you into, bye, big brother! The phone went dead. Jules fucking hung up on me. My grounding recommendations just went up to age 42 and a half. I went out the back door, slipped through the gate on the side into Trixie's yard to avoid my brothers, which didn't help my cause because Luke Skycocker came at me like a rooster bat out of hell. If I didn't have finely honed quarterback skills, my outfit would be toast. I sprinted across the yard. Luke, I swear to God, you're going to be Sunday dinner if you peck a hole in my pants or shit on my shoes. Wouldn't be the first time he'd done either. I rushed the fence, used the coop as a launch pad, and leapt into the backyard of my childhood home unscathed. A pecking sound came from the other side of the fence, and a disgruntled squawking. You underestimate the power of the dark side, Luke. Through the French doors that opened out to the backyard, I could see Jules and my dad in the kitchen. But when Trixie walked by, my heart skipped a beat and then pounded against my chest. I raised my hand to make sure it wasn't popping out the front of my shirt. My career was over. It would be irresponsible of me to play a professional sport with a heart that didn't work right. Game over. Trixie was fucking gorgeous. A dark blue dress that showed off every goddamned curve. A pretty blush to her cheeks, and shiny heels with red soles that I caught a glimpse of when she walked. I was dead. Dead meat. Or I thought I was, until she turned and caught me standing in the backyard like a dumb, slobbering zombie. Because she smiled and... holy fuck. The curve of her lips. That was my favorite curve of all. I forgot how to speak, how to move, how to think. She waved and opened the door, and I woke the fuck up and stepped behind the lawn furniture so she didn't see the tent in the front of my pants. Hey, she said as if we just bumped into each other while grabbing the mail. Hey. Sweet baby Jesus, I was so screwed. Ready? She tipped her head and looked at me with slightly narrowed eyes. Was I ever? Let me just order that car. I turned my back on her and gave my cock a good stern talking to. Thought of baseball, the King of England, and losing the Super Bowl, not that I ever had. A few deep breaths later, and our car was on the way, and my dick was only at half-mast instead of a heat-seeking missile with Trixie as the target. You look great. I sounded like a dumbass. She did a little flounce and twirl. Thanks. Jules helped me put the look together. You look nice too. I always did like you in a suit. This was it. If ever I was going to legitimately flirt with Trix, now was my chance. I could say something about how she liked looking at my butt in a uniform even more. Yeah, this suit is expensive. Yes, I did just fumble the fuck out of that ball. I choked. Because Trixie didn't want me to flirt with her, and as much as I wanted to show her we could be so damn good together, I couldn't cross that line in the sand she'd drawn so long ago. It was better to be a monk who enjoyed little more than the company of my own spit in hand than lose her friendship for a roll in the hay. Except it wouldn't be just sex for me. Trixie gave me the side eye and a weird frown. She didn't care about my money, even if I was one of the highest paid players in league history. She strolled over to me and reached up to adjust my tie. This was the part where I should kiss her. Instead, I stood there like a mascot getting beamed with jeers from the visiting team. I suppose a famous guy like you should wear an expensive suit to a shindig like this. We don't have to go if you don't want to. We could watch reruns of Bake Off and throw popcorn at Luke. Once again, my mouth was doing things my brain had not authorized. I had to go to the restaurant opening. No way I'd let a friend and mentor down by ditching his grand opening. Not even for a girl. Well, maybe for Trixie. Oh no, you're not getting out of this now. I got dressed up and I want that hot goss on all your celebrity friends. She really didn't have a clue. I was over here fighting for my life not to bend her over the picnic table, and she was being the good girl. They aren't my friends, Trix. You are. What I got for my sincerity was a smack on the chest. Quit being so adorable and sweet. Now feed me and tell me I'm pretty. She turned and walked toward the gate leading out to the front of the house. I let my head fall back and stared up at the sky with a sigh. She wanted to be friends, so we were friends. I put on a voice like her request was the hardest request on the face of the earth just to give her a tiny tease. Fine, if I have to. I didn't follow her right away because once again I was taking the time to watch her hips and her round ass sway as she walked away. I would have enjoyed that sight a lot longer too if I hadn't caught Jules, arms folded and an evil grin on her face, watching me through the back door. So that concludes our first 3 chapters of The Cock Down the Block. I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. I really loved this book. It just nested itself inside my soul in exactly no time at all. And I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it the first time. And before I get too deep into our analysis here, which there's not really much, it's mostly just my scrap notes written down in my Princess Leia Erin Condren binder. Real talk. But before I get down too much into it, use the force, you stupid rooster, is legitimately one of my favorite lines in rom-com history. It's so perfect, and the amount of puns in those chicken names are, bar none, some of the best. And in case you didn't get it, Princess Leia is not spelled Leia, it is spelled Laya, like laying eggs. So, yes, so many puns. And I know they're terrible, and I know they're the most bad dad jokes in the world, and I don't care because they are amazing. So, as you can see, we do have an abundance of plus size representation in this. Trixie is your curvy girl, and even on the cover she's actually shown as a curvy girl. She has rolls, she has flab. It's awesome to see somebody who looks like a lot of us do. I think they actually reference her as a size 18, maybe a 16 in the book, if they actually do reference a size. But it's really cool to see somebody who is actually the average American woman's size be referenced as the FMC, the main female character for a novel. Female main character, not main female character. Yeah. For a novel, it's really, really cool to see that because you don't often. Usually you have, oh, his hand went across her flat stomach. Bitch, my stomach ain't been flat since 12th grade. And that was like 12 years ago, which is really, really hurt. Nope, it's longer than that. I graduated from 12th grade, which would be senior year of high school, in 2008. Mother of God, it's been like 14 years. 16 years. Higher math is not my strong suit, guys. Yeah, it's been 16 years since I was in high school. That's painful. That's legitimately painful. But in all honesty, my stomach hasn't been flat in 16 years. It's a long time to be sort of not exactly the norm for sizing. So it's really cool to see them talking about plus size representation where the main crux of her story is not that she loses weight, but that somebody finds her attractive in all facets, not just because of how she appears. And so this is, as you may have guessed, the ultimate friends to lovers story. As I mentioned, I truly believe in friends to lovers superiority. So good and so wholesome. I've never read a friends to lovers book that did not just drag me in and make me feel cozy and warm and happy. It's absolutely a phenomenal trope because it's just, you know, that person. You're through all versions of yourself, from friends all the way to more. And I think that's just really beautiful because you really do need that basis in reality to build a relationship on. If you are just launching like the Titanic into lovers with no basis in friendship to support it, you will end up like the Titanic, sunk in at the bottom of the ocean and waiting 84 years for a sapphire that you're going to throw into the ocean too. That's some millennial humor for you guys. Sorry. Great. But Chris Kingman has loved Trixie since he was 12. He actually does recognize it's been since he was 12. And there, although he uses the phrase friend zone, it's not in the gross sort of way that you hear it used in a lot of social cultural conversations where it's wondering whether, you behave nicely to somebody with the interest in getting sex. That is not the purpose of the friend zone here. The purpose of the friend zone in this story is to say she told him she was not interested, or at least he understood it to be that, when they were younger, and because the Kingmans drink their respect women juice, so fucking important, because they drink their respect women juice, he took that no and understood it meant no. There's no pushing past the no, and no is a whole complete sentence, which is really just a beautiful thing to read in literature because so often it's reached past the no. I want to be with you. No. Well, we're going to be together. But dude, she fucking said no. Whereas Chris Kingman is all about, she said no, that was her choice, and I will respect her choice. And as he acknowledged, he'd rather live like a monk and respect that no than push against it and maybe be successful in going past it. And that's something really, really cool that you don't see a lot of in literature because alpha whole men are a dime a dozen, especially in dark romance, which I love me, my possessive alpha whole men. Real talk. But I do like seeing this side of the male pool. That's a really gross way to say it, but I really do like seeing that side of masculinity where it's not so much alpha hole as it is how he can support her and build her up, and then maybe she'll come to a realization, but he's not being nice to her for the sole and express purpose of getting to either sex or a relationship in such a way that he would be horrible to her if he didn't get either of those, which is so much what you hear when you talk about the friend zone. It's really frustrating. But beyond that, and we're going to conclude with this particular commentary because I get to break out my real late 90s self, my real millennial self for this, which is they have such big Evie and Rick O'Connell from the 1990s Mummies movies energy. It's so deep. And first off, she's a librarian, which starts it from scratch. She is a librarian, and as Evie said in The Mummy, I know what I am. I'm a librarian. And just Rick O'Connell looks so bemused by it. That entire energy, that whole I am a librarian Evie energy is Trixie. In a nutshell, 1000%. If Rachel Weisz were plus size, this would be her. All the way. And then Chris Kingman has such big Rick O'Connell energy. He's so perfect. I love him because he's a big-hearted, hot as fuck football player who has major himbo vibes, except he's smart. I don't actually know what a smart himbo is. Is that like a smimbo? That's not a thing. He's a smart himbo. He's clever, he's intelligent, but he really is just so deeply in love with Trixie, which, if you're paying attention, is Rick O'Connell. And not to mention, Amy Award, the author, does even describe Chris Kingman as a 1990s Brendan Fraser lookalike. So not only do we have this just major Rick O'Connell energy that he and Trixie are bringing to the table, but he also apparently looks like him. And if you grew up in the 90s, I can tell you, 1990s Brendan Fraser, hell, present Brendan Fraser, even for personality and just sheer adorableness. But 1990s Brendan Fraser has had it all, and the Mummy Brendan Fraser, in particular, was bar none best movie boyfriend ever. Seriously, so much of my sexuality was dictated by the Mummy. Yeah, I'm gonna lean into that. Like, my chaotic bi awakening happened long before I ever actually came out as bi. It literally started with Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser in The Mummy, and if we really want to lean into it, Anaxinamoon and Imhotep as well. I definitely just butchered those names. But that entire cast is way too fucking beautiful. But if you want big if you want big mummy energy, the cock down the block is for you. And I will also tell you, in that in the second chapter, she referenced a book called Dragons Love Curves. That is a nested Easter egg reference, actually, because Amy Award also writes books under the pen name 80 Award. I probably butchered that, but if y'all want to go check her out, it's AIDY, same last name. And that's where she writes paranormal romance. So those are going to be dragon shifters, wolf shifters, and I think there may be one other in that lineup, but they're super duper cute, and they're all, again, that plus sized representation as well in the FMCs. But Dragons Love Curves is one of her series in that universe as 80 Award. So, highly recommend. It's really great. And I hope you enjoyed this. We will be back next Wednesday for fun and shenanigans, and we will be breaking out a dark romance. Not to spoil anything, but it is actually one of my beloved Bookstagram besties who just published her book last December. So I'm really excited to feature her. But in the meantime, I hope you loved this exposure to Amy Award. She is amazing. I love her work, and the second book in the Cocky Kingman series actually released just a little bit ago. The Wiener Across the Way just released a little while ago, and she's actually releasing a new book in a couple of months. And she just announced the name of it. I actually just found that out, which I'm really excited about. And it's called The Pussy Next Door. So, we love us, our genital oriented puns, apparently. But if you want to keep reading, you can find her stuff on Amazon. It's also available through Kindle Unlimited. I highly recommend. And thanks so much for joining us for week 2. So glad you came.